Hi everybody, Kate Haley here with Glazer's Camera. Happy Thursday. We hope that everybody's having a great summer so far and being safe, because I know that there's a lot of fires happening, especially on the West Coast here. Today, we haven't done one of these in a while, so welcome back to being live on YouTube and Facebook. Today we're going to talk about creating better audio for your video content in partnership with Rode. Today we have Ryan White on the line from Rode. Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll dive into your presentation and let people know how they can be involved in this.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's always fun to be back. Glad to be back. And about me, I'm the U.S. product specialist for Rode, and got into that just by happenstance, knowing a lot of people. I like to make the joke that I was good enough to not get fired from those jobs. But I've been doing audio for 18 years, 19 years,
Wow.
and been with Rode for 7 years now. And I like to call it, I lovingly call the position the mic geek position. I just teach and train on microphones around the US for retailers and schools. We've actually transitioned into
Great.
some end user events and teaching students that are coming into the industry as well.
That's really awesome. It's great to get them started early with understanding all these principles that we're going to talk about today. So awesome. So for those of you tuning in today, we do have a way for you to be a part of this presentation and conversation. Ryan has some slides to talk about setting up your audio and what gear recommendations and all that good stuff. But we of course want to hear from you if you have audio questions. And all you need to do is post those questions in the comments on Facebook Live or in the chat on the YouTube Live page. I'll be monitoring those questions. We might do a few throughout the session, but most of them we may hold until the end. But don't be shy. This is a great opportunity to pick the brain of an expert on audio. All right, with all that said, Ryan, I'm going to pass it back over to you so that we can dive into your presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kate, and thanks to Glazers for having us. This is always very, very fun. So, as Kate was saying, I am open to questions. If it's on topic to what we're doing here, I always encourage asking those questions in real time, whatever's specific to you, whatever you may have experienced personally or just been kind of curious about, and that's why you're here. So, let's get it started. So again, I'm the U.S. product specialist for Rode, and the main position there is to train. So I'm not a commissioned salesman at all. I always like to reiterate the fact that any microphones you have or any technology that you have, whether it be Rode or not, I'm here to answer those questions. Of course, as an employee of Rode, I'm always pushing for that. I was a fan of the company long before I even knew that this was possibly a job for me. So coming into this, it was very cool to have a bunch of experience with a bunch of other companies from an experience of being the user and now being able to pass on that knowledge to you all. So Rode, if you're not familiar, is a Sydney-based company. So Sydney, Australia, this is how the warehouse and the like all the offices and everything looks today. So we're always expanding, always growing, but we are not a Chinese-made company. It's commonly misrepresented as, because it's affordable, as something that you might find out of China. We 100% manufacture everything right out of that building right there with the sole purpose of increasing the quality while the price point stays as low as possible. So we are the US distribution for it. That's who I work for out of Long Beach, California. And then that gets to our retailers here in town, like Glazers, and to you all. So that's the chain, and that's as simple as it gets. We try to keep it high quality as high quality as humanly possible. Today, I would like to talk about creating better audio, which is a pretty vague sentence if you just take it at that sentence alone. But we're going to break that into some of the science, some of that nerdy stuff. Like I said, the mic geek. The microphone is going to be first thing we're going to talk about, kind of how am I to select it, then what's special about some of the different microphones inside of that space, why would I pick them, how would I use them, some of the techniques. Then number two, we want to talk about the setup. It's very important that you get everything plugged in and operational as easily as possible. Also, if you're going live or something like that, you want to make sure that it's not too difficult, because otherwise you might run into problems and it gets a little hairy and it's hard to recover. So also just making sure your setup's locked in so that you can perform better. And then finally, we're going to have a little fun, which is going to be more of an application of that knowledge with 3 scenarios that are very common. One of which, the dialogue in a car, is just a fun one from Hollywood. A lot of people ask, what do you do when you can't see the microphone? So that's one of the examples that I like to pull from every once in a while. So let's get that started. So where do we start? And funny enough, it is the microphone. You all guessed it. So with microphone selection, I teach 2 very important things. So the first one is going to be the microphone type. If you're a nerd like myself, that's going to be the capsule inside of it, dynamic, condenser, and a lot of those things are right underneath those images you see there with dynamic microphones, shotgun microphones, all these terms that you hear. The scientific side of it is going to be a dynamic microphone or a condenser microphone in most cases. The other thing is going to be polar patterns. So when you're selecting a microphone, these are the 2 things that I'm primarily going to focus on. The first being the type. With a condenser microphone, it's a very sensitive microphone. That means that if I put it in this room with my air conditioner running, fans running, any kind of speakers, my computer is actually right over here. I'm in my home studio, so the computer is very close. A condenser microphone is going to pick that up. They're very, very accurate microphones, which is one of the things that we like about them. So with accuracy, you can get a little further away with sensitivity. With sensitivity, you can get a little further away. With accuracy, you sound more natural to what you actually are. And then with dynamic microphones, the give and the take there is that a dynamic microphone is less sensitive. It's not going to pick up as much as easily. So it's very good for louder circumstances, right? Right now, I do in fact have the air conditioner running to stay cool and not sweat on camera. And then the computer's running, right? I have to run the computer to do the stream. So with that, I chose to do a dynamic microphone. This is the pod mic from Rode, simply to reduce the influence of those sounds into the microphone. And the other good thing, so you have the good thing. The bad thing about that is that distance is not going to really be an option with a dynamic microphone. The further away you get, the more it's going to turn it down. So for an example, here we go. Check 1, 2, check 1, 2, testing mic 1, 2. I always like to do that one to also then show polar pattern as well. As I get further away from it, it's going to make me sound like I'm a mile away. It's going to turn it down significantly. So it does the same thing for those noisy items like the computer and the fan and so forth. With polar patterns, you're actually running into where's the microphone picking up from. So omni to the left, cardioid, and then super. And then these are a 2D representation of polar patterns on the microphone. So all we're looking at here is directionality. Where can I capture sound? And if you look at it from a 3D angle, you actually get something like this. So it's more of like a balloon around the microphone capsule, allowing you to pick it up. If you look at the middle one, the cardioid pattern is going to actually cancel directly behind the microphone. So 2 mantras for you that go together with these things. Type of the microphone, condenser or dynamic, and then polar patterns are 2 mantras that I teach in every single class that I do. The first being, it's not about how far from the mic you can get, it's how close you can get the microphone without ruining the shot. And the second one is, what makes me a professional is not quite what I capture. Of course, and obviously, you have to capture something, but it's really easy, or a lot easier, to capture my voice right here at 6 inches away or less from the microphone. What makes me a professional is what I get rid of. So the mantra is, it's not what you actually capture, it's what you get rid of that makes you a professional. Everybody is always after capturing the audio. That's the goal. You buy a microphone, you talk into it. That's the obvious part. What makes you better is what you get rid of. So take advantage of the polar pattern, take advantage of the type of the microphone, and you'll be able to get rid of and reduce more things. And I always reiterate and finalize that with, you can't get rid of sound entirely unless you turn it off or mute it, right? If you create a microphone where it actually doesn't allow for sound to actually travel into it from a distance, I want to be a partner because you're going to be rich. The idea here is that the sound, so say my computer or that fan, if I were to be quiet, you could hear it eventually. It's going to come out of the item and around and into the microphone. If you think about water waves, which is a common thing that we use to test sound waves, if you're standing on the beach and water hits your legs, is it just dry sand behind you? No. So the idea there is the same thing with sound. Once it hits your legs or comes around this microphone, it doesn't just stop. It's going to wrap around, bounce off walls, and then come back into the microphone. So that's why you always hear it, even if it is reduced significantly. So minimizing your problems is going to save you a lot of time, a lot of heartache, and things like that. So getting into something a little more in depth, Rode Microphones has what we call the video mic line. And we're going to show you a few of our microphones as we go through the technology to also drive the point home. First, for what we have to offer if you are looking for a solution, and second of all, to show that we're actually accommodating for some of these techniques inside of the product lines that we have. So as you saw in that earlier slide, we're going to talk about wireless microphones, USB, and things like that. So on camera is another option for you as well. And I like to simplify our video mic line with this image right here, because it shows, even though there's a bunch of options, and there's even more options inside of our lineup than this, that the bottom left side of that is going to be more inexpensive. They're going to be quick solutions. I always like to say no frills, no bells and whistles would be another way to say that. If you're in a video micro, it's going to be $60, and it's going to be a cardioid condenser microphone. So those two things we just learned, there it is. You're going to find that in the data sheet for the video micro if you go and look at that, and know instantly that it's a little more sensitive and that it cancels from behind the microphone. Two techniques to help improve your sound right away from a $60 microphone. Super simple. As you go back through that line, you're going to add frills. You're going to add things like the Video Mic Go is the first quote unquote shotgun microphone. That was hypercardioid. So I apologize. I'm going to jump back. There we go, right there. If you look at hypercardioid, supercardioid, the cancellation pattern of it is actually a little interesting. It lets a little bit of audio in from the back in order to cancel more at a 45, 30-degree angle off the back of the microphone. We like to generalize this as the sides of the microphone. As you can tell by that image, it's not perfect. It's not exactly the sides, but there's a little more accuracy from that 2D representation of a supercardioid microphone. So what do you do? Why do you care? What you're going to actually do is point that bad audio towards that, what's called a null point, the place in which it cancels out. So if I'm using a shotgun microphone like the Video Mic Go, I'll point the bad noise towards the side more than the back. If I'm using a micro, I'm going to point the bad noise more towards the back of the microphone than to the side. And all while doing this, you're not paying any more money. It's just simply placing it in an orientation to make it better for you. Pretty simple stuff. So moving into that, we got the Video Mic regular. That's got a battery, what's called a roll-off. I have some more information on that on the next slide. And the Pro Plus has a boost, a preamp, something to turn up the level. So a pad turns down the level, preamp turns up a level. These are all still hypercardioid shotgun microphones, and the same with the Video Mic NTG. But the Video Mic NTG is going to be 250 with a USB output, so you can actually plug it into your computer if you want. You can run it to your camera, you can run it to your phone. So you can kind of start to understand why I'm talking about frills, because it just does more. So the more you go up this lineup through Rode, you're going to get more features that you'll either want to use or not want to use. If you don't want to use them, stay down on that bottom half and you'll still be happy, but you gotta, every time you go down to the bottom half, you have to accommodate for problems, overcome problems, right? So again, using the polar pattern, using the type of microphone to your advantage. If you buy the things with those switches and those options, then you can turn those on and actually take advantage of them because they're there. So you'll pay a little bit more money, but you'll have a lot more longevity and a lot more options. This is a chart that I actually went ahead and just made myself because I got this question so often. Pardon me. So with a roll-off, if you look at the top left of that chart, you'll see that there's frequencies. We're not going to get too deep into that today. I just want you to know that the human ear can hear on average from that 20 to 20,000. These are just what sound waves are measured in. And so if I use a roll-off, say like in the Video Mic Pro or a Video Mic Pro Plus, that will roll off the low end, hence the name. It's going to get rid of low end rumble, which is where air conditioners live. It's where fans and wind, just going outside and hearing wind blow across your microphone, that really low rumble is below that 80 hertz in most cases. And again, we don't hear just one frequency unless it's simulated. We hear a lot of frequencies constantly. So if you are out at the beach and you don't have a furry windjammer, more on that in a little bit, and you do have the roll-off engaged, it's not going to get rid of everything that you hear from the wind, but it's going to get rid of the really loud, really low-end, heavy stuff. And that's going to allow you to then hear anybody that might be talking above that stuff in frequencies. So the other thing you're going to look at there is something called a pad and a preamp. I mentioned those briefly. The center line horizontally that's solid is 0 dB. Again, decibels dB are just what we measure volume in. How loud is it? How much energy is it actually outputting to what we hear, what we record? So 0 is unaffected, what we call flat. It's not changing at all. Plus 20 is a ton of gain. It is a lot of volume. It is turning up at the microphone, all of that audio coming in. Remember our mantras though. If you have a good room, then plus 20 is going to treat you very well. If you have sound coming into your room that's bad, 20 is going to treat you worse. It's going to turn up the bad as well. We cannot get rid of it if it is there. So one of the harder parts about audio is getting rid of those bad things. So turning off those fans and air conditioners, choosing a dynamic mic instead. So keep that in mind as you're choosing these microphones. It's there, but it is going to be an artistic endeavor. And that's why I stress that when you get up into the higher side of these microphones, you're going to want to try them out, use them, learn when they're applicable, and it will treat you very well when you do that way. So the other side of that is negative 10 dB, which is called a pad, pre-attenuation device for all the nerds out there that want to jot that down. But turning it down is going to allow me to record louder things, obviously, right? So I'm from the Midwest, a lot of hunters and things like that. A gunshot is going to take distance and a pad. You're just going to have to turn it down. It's a very, very loud thing. It's a very percussive thing, and it's just going to what's called clip. It's going to distort. So turning that down prior to really helps you. So if that's something you might record, then considering a microphone with that feature is obviously a wise move. So I don't think I missed anything on that. Kate, how we doing? We're moving into wireless next if we're good.
We are good. I will ask quickly, and if you're going to cover this, we don't have to answer it right now. Someone is doing videos with their smartphone or camera. Stereo microphone recommendations for a smartphone? Are we going to talk about that?
Not stereo, unfortunately.
Not
Phones
stereo.
are fickle.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is, and unfortunately Rode does not have one. Shure does have one. I'm not sure how stereo it is. I would be asking that person first and foremost, why stereo?
Okay.
So I'll just generally sum up stereo versus mono, which is mono is for dialogue, which is about 80% of everything we film. Stereo is for music and B-roll.
Well, that's
Now, these
why,
are
because he's shooting video,
Yep.
live music.
Live music. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought I said that.
Either I missed it or yeah.
I may have. Who
It's
knows?
all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So perfect. You said he, right? So
Yeah.
he is right on track. So unfortunately, we don't have one. Shure has one, I think, called the MV88. And I totally lied to you. I guess the question is iPhone or...
Well,
it has been a minute because we moved into that micro.
Well, he said stereo microphone for camera or smartphone, which doesn't draw too much attention. So my guess is that Tom, that's his name, is maybe trying both devices for this. And a lot of people
Fair
are
enough.
transitioning to, or a lot of people are using their smartphones for content in general. So
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Let me totally apologize and ask Rhode's forgiveness for forgetting. It's been a long time since we talked about the IXY, which is a lightning port stereo microphone from Rode, and it is a high fidelity XY. So both capsules are pointed like this, which
I've
causes
seen it.
low phasing. Yeah, I actually, as a videographer, have used that microphone on my iPhone. So it's very specific that you have a phone that is lightning port. At the time of its creation, we had what's called the M5s, which are studio condenser mics. So for like recording acoustic guitar, we slapped that into an iPhone stereo microphone. It is an amazing microphone. So again, I do apologize. But we've been talking so much these days about content creation and dialogue that we haven't had to talk, not we like Glazers, but even myself and with COVID and all that stuff. So apologies for the excuses.
No, it's okay.
But I have used that for a concert to replace some of the audio on my DSLR. So I use the DSLR as a run and gun shoot. And then I actually set up the stereo microphone in my phone for a quick, easy recording at the sound booth. Just placed it there, pointed it off the desk towards the speakers. Now I gotta say the one bad thing about that is you will get everything that happens in the room, as we've already talked about, right?
Right.
So if the microphone is pointed at the speakers and the room sounds bad, the speakers are distorting, or whatever happens in the room, crowd gets loud, that will be recorded into that audio source, obviously. But then I'll use something like a VideoMic Pro Plus or VideoMic NTG or a wireless microphone walking around, something remote, stick mic, something that's like more interview style. And then I'll combine those pieces of audio in post.
And just remind me, that was the IXY? I think I got the letters
The
right.
IXY is the Lightning version. And then I'm just going to go ahead and throw these out there too, because they're my favorites. The Stereo VideoMic Pro is an amazing workhorse for B-roll and music. It's often overshadowed by the VideoMic Pro Plus and things like that because of the importance of dialogue. So the Stereo VideoMic Pro, wonderful solution. The Stereo VideoMic X is your professional, again, studio grade microphone with XLR and aluminum housing, like the works. It's the top of the line, and it's very, very accurate. So if you're going DSLR external recorder techniques, then those two microphones are,
Okay.
yep, done.
All right. So
Yeah.
I hope that helps out with that question. We can keep diving into your presentation. That's the only one that came in so
Great.
far. So yeah.
Well, and great question. Wonderful question. So Stereo VideoMic Pro, Stereo VideoMic X, and the IXY. So after that, we're going to move into wireless. Speaking of some of those things, the first, we have to mention the Wireless Go, a brand new microphone. I can't say brand new anymore because it's got a new brother that came in. So the Wireless Go, its idea at its conception was a built-in microphone right on the transmitter. So with a wireless mic, the benefit, so we're talking about increasing the quality of your audio. Mantra number one, getting the microphone closer to yourself. The way you do that is by using a wireless microphone. If I grab a Wireless Go, the transmitter, that little box is about that big. And let me actually grab its big brother, or I guess its younger brother. I got it right here. So the Wireless Go 2. Oh, and you're using the Wireless Go 1.
We have
Is
the
that
one,
correct?
yeah, because this is our demo unit that we use for the live broadcasts.
Great.
That's what he said.
Yeah, this is the one that, yeah,
Thanks.
Beautiful. There it is, right?
yeah.
Yeah, super, super tiny. The
This is
size
also
of my
what I have for
glasses.
my own kit, but I have the white version because I didn't need the new version because I don't need the 3 options. But that's what you're going to talk
Exactly.
about, right?
Yep,
Yep, okay.
more on that.
All
Yep.
right.
So the Wireless Go and the benefits of a lavalier wireless microphone is to get that as close as humanly possible with discretion. It's very small. You can actually add a lavalier microphone into it, so the wired microphone that will like tuck under your shirt. But the idea of the Wireless Go was to put it right into the transmitter, make the transmitter small and discreet, and no need for wires. You can just, as the name would suggest, tack it on somebody and go. It was amazing for interviews, and it was just so fast that it made the interview process a little less awkward while still achieving rule number one, getting the microphone closer. No wires between the transmitter and the receiver. That would allow you to keep things controlled from a standpoint of just tripping on things or having to manage cables. There's no cable there. It actually is wirelessly transmitting across in the air the same way the radio comes to you or Wi-Fi or any of those things. So less wires. So with that, I also have to tell you some of the downfalls. So some of the downfalls are that you can get dropouts, and you do have to stay within a range, and line of sight is kind of crucial on that. So if you're actually like turning around and you're a longer way outside of the range, then that can actually minimize some of that. So more on the range stuff here in just a little bit, but let's switch over to attaching a wired microphone to it. So I actually purposefully showed the SmartLav Plus, and we're going to have a section on cables alone. But the SmartLav Plus was an just a smartphone in general, TRRS connector. And you could actually adapt that over with our SC3 and then plug that into the microphone jack on that Wireless Go and have a wired microphone. Now we have the smart, I messed up, the Lav Go. So instead of the Smart Lav Plus, you grab the Lav Go by itself. The cable's already ready to plug into the wireless Go, and you have a wired microphone. Put the belt pack, the transmitter right on your belt pack, right on your belt loop, sorry, just like you always would. So a very, very discreet, small wireless setup with a professional lavalier mic right on your collar. And then we're actually going to step into the newest addition to the Wireless Go system, which is the new Wireless Go 2. Every single person was shouting, shouting, shouting for a 2 transmitter set. Rode always, again, this goes back to building in Sydney versus building outsourced and otherwise, is they want to do it well and right. And so the Wireless Go 2 has at least 4 other features that I can think of off the top of my head from our competitors at a $299 price point. You're going to get 2 transmitters. The ones on the left here are your microphones and transmitters. So that's channel 1 and channel 2. On the receiver, you actually have the ability to switch between a mono or a stereo signal. When you're stereo with the default cable it comes with and you plug it into a DSLR, it will actually split one microphone to the left of your recorder, your camera in this case, and the other to the right side, and that's the other person. So in post, you can grab the left and the right inside your camera and edit them separately. It's amazing for one system to actually do that and then allow you to in post to edit and to your heart's content, right? The only thing you got to concern yourself with is bleed. So proximity to the other person. If you have a really loud room, reverberant, echoey, it's going to pick up that stuff. This is a condenser microphone that is omnidirectional. You should remember those from earlier on in the class. So it's going to pick up in every direction. So the goal here is to get it as close to the person who's talking's mouth so that when they talk, they're the prominent source on the microphone. And then in post, you can really edit that to a clean, crisp conversation, interview, whatever that might be. But now you have the ability to do it all in one unit. You also have the ability to record for 7 hours of uncompressed information on each transmitter. So you also have redundancy and backup if something were to go weird with your camera, your external recorder, or otherwise. Anything that might have happened while your SD card was full is still recorded in that. So obviously you'd have to go find some more video, but you would still have that audio. So if you have a great take, you could cut to a B-roll scenario or something and grab that audio and replace. It's all on board. The other thing too is now this is a USB microphone physically. So you can actually plug the USB into a computer and use your lavalier as a wireless microphone for your Skype calls, Zoom, anything you're doing online, just like we're doing right now. Makes it very handy, remote, all from inside of this tiny, tiny 1-inch box, 1-inch by 1-inch box. It's very, very cool. So I did promise that I would tell you a little bit about overcoming some of the problems. One of the first things they did with the Wireless Go 2 is increase the range by a ton. 600 feet, 3 times. So you actually have 600 feet. I don't know a single person who uses 200 foot in their interviews or their wireless techniques, but we gave that in the Wireless Go 1. And then for this, we actually did the 600 feet. Now this is what's known as a 2.4 gigahertz system. A lot of you have probably heard of that with your Wi-Fi units. So that's the problem, is that if you go to a hotel or something with a lot of Wi-Fi or phones, then you have what has been the best analogy, the best example of this I've ever heard. And that is to think of it like a fog. So if you got Wi-Fi bouncing all around you in that hotel and you got phones, you're at a wedding and you got 200 people in the middle of you and you're centered up behind everybody. And of course the bride and the groom are up in front. Well, if they talk, their wireless transmission has to come through everybody else's fog. The phones that are emitting wireless signals in and out, creates this fog that you have to pass through. So that's the idea. Transmitter to receiver, try to minimize the fog. So how do you do that? Well, you increase the range. You get help from the manufacturer. We actually designed this thing to fight those frequencies specifically. So it's a very well encrypted, well-designed system to jump from frequency and packet to packet to where it actually is fighting the idea of Wi-Fi and phones in general. And then when you increase the range by 3 times, you also have a stronger antenna that's able to push harder. So that's very, very important inside of this digital wireless space. And it's all inside of that $299 dual setup, which is very, very cool. And again, remember, you're still recording locally to the transmitter if something happens, you get a dropout inside of your wedding because of quick plug and play stuff, then you can actually go right onto the transmitter and grab it. So finally, if you do have a wireless Go or maybe even somebody else's product that is giving you dropout problems, I got to tell you how to get better audio, right? Avoid the fog. So the final way to get around this is to literally put your microphone outside of that path. So if you're coming straight down the aisle from bride and groom into your camera at 50 feet and 200 people in between, move a secondary recorder or camera over to the side out of that line of sight so that you now have a clean path outside of the fog from the talent to the camera or recorder. You can either do that by literally placing your camera over there and that becomes your A shot, using a secondary camera for your for two camera view, but one is positioned closer and things like that. Sky's the limit. Get creative. And then you're trying to then add that audio back into your video in post. If you're going live, then you have to test it prior to. Check for how many Wi-Fi systems are out there, how many phones, and make sure you're not going to have those dropouts to the best of your ability. Now, I've started in live sound, so show must go on no matter what happens. And in live sound, we're often pretty forgiving of things going wrong, as long as they don't ruin the entire event. But show must go on, so fix it, keep those things in mind, and it'll be just fine. So a couple accessories that come along with the wireless Go systems these days. I should clarify, they don't come with, right? They are accessories to add on to. But the DCS-1 is a nice shoe mount, very small format, and it goes right on top of your camera. You can put a light on one side and your wireless Go 2 single receiver for 2 signals of audio. You could put a shotgun microphone in the receiver of a wireless Go 1. And we have the SC11, which is on the far right there. It's actually going to take that left and right of, say, 2 wireless Go's. You can take a wireless Go 1 as talent number 1, and then a wireless Go number 2 as talent number 2, and then split those signals to the left and right of your DSLR camera and get 2 physical connections from your already existent wireless Go's. So it's another way to get 2 microphones into your camera without a wireless Go 2, if you already happen to have a wireless Go 1. And then the SC15 in the middle there is a brand new cable to where you're actually going to be able to use that digital USB output of your wireless microphone, your wireless Go 2, into your phone, into your iOS device. So those are actually Apple certified and will work for that and the VideoMic NTG, which I'll tell you about a little more in detail here in a bit. Right now, actually, funny enough. So USB microphones are another way to enhance this type of streaming setup or otherwise. Always remember that we're talking about the polar patterns and the type of microphone every time we have this conversation when we're choosing our mic. So the VideoMic NTG, a camera microphone by its original design, has a USB output that allows you to plug it in and make it your sound card for your online activity, streaming, recording, whatever you might be doing online, having a Zoom call, all those things. It's a very simple setup, and I actually have one right here. Switch it over. So with my VideoMic NTG, instead of my pod mic, everything's black in the room, sorry. Let's bring it up here by the light. I can actually place this microphone over here, pointed back at my mouth, just the same as I do with the pod mic. Again, it's a condenser microphone that's hyper or supercardioid. So if I'm in a scenario where some noise is happening from the sides of me, I could take advantage of that. Instead of repositioning my pod mic in a weird way, I can choose a polar pattern that has side cancellation instead. It's also going to be very, very accurate to what I sound like in the room. And then if I need to get this just outside of the shot, like Hollywood does, a technique is often to just place it right outside the screen, but I'm a foot away from this thing. So you can even see the cable dangling right there. So the point is, if you have to choose like the image, the visual, I chose the pod mic in the shot because I'm an audio guy. I got big, massive headphones for quality, but also because I'm an audio guy. So here it is. I got a guitar over there, right? I do audio. If your show is not quite audio centered and you want it off the screen, a condenser microphone can do that, but always remember that you might have to minimize some problems that you'll run into. So VideoMic NTG is great for that. Run a USB cable straight over to your laptop, whatever, and it is now a USB microphone, as well as tomorrow, plug it into your DSLR and start running and gunning your interviews or whatever you might be doing, professional boom poles, all the things. all stuff that's going to be coming further into this class. And then we got our traditional USBs. The USB Mini, apologies, I got the USB Mini right here as well. Should have put them closer to myself. The USB Mini is very, very small. It is exactly the size of the pod mic. So with the USB Mini, the goal was to keep it very affordable, $99. It is a condenser microphone, very sensitive, but it is a studio grade capsule. You can use it for music. You can use it for voiceover work. You can do it for your podcast. You could do it for just about anything. One of my favorite applications for it is streaming, gaming, right? Gaming especially, without the headset, with the microphone coming in and so forth, that just sits on the desk, again, about a foot away, and captures everything I'm doing, like the clicking, movement, chairs. You know, as long as you don't have a speaker in the room, meaning like an output that's literally taking the game audio or your voice or something like that back into the microphone, it's golden. It's ready to go. So you just place it onto the desk, very small format, USB right into computer, high quality, studio grade audio. With this microphone, even more so than the VideoMic NTG, it's even more sensitive because it is a bigger capsule. It's not a shotgun microphone, it's cardioid. So it's actually going to pick up a bigger image out in the world too. So you got to be cautious with that. If you have a lot of noise that you can't minimize on your stream, then maybe pick the VideoMic NTG. Pick a pod mic. But if you can, and you want it off screen or just picking up what is happening in real time, into USB Mini. A little shout out to Rode Connect. We actually created a software very recently that allows you to actually plug in 4 USB microphones into your computer. So if your computer actually has 4 USB inputs, or if you have a powered USB hub, then you can power 4 of those microphones and do a full podcast with all 4 people. It used to be almost impossible to plug in 4 USB microphones simultaneously. Now with Rode Connect, you have that full ability, and they're advancing it every single day to be more like our podcast desk, the Rodecaster Pro. So very cool stuff for only $400 with all 4 of them set up, ready to go, desktop mounted. It's a quick way to have a 4-person podcast on a friendly budget with very powerful software backing it. So Windows 10 and all of the newer Mac versions, really great for that software too. So getting back into, there's my switcher. Getting back into this, we want to talk about mobile because it has become a very, very important thing for everybody to actually switch into mobile because we have them in our pockets. We're already paying a ton of money for them. Why not do that? The first thing I have to tell you is phones are fickle. They will choose to not use your external microphones just because they had a bad day.
Hey, Ryan.
And then you will have a bad day. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, before we dive into this, I just want to ask this question from Bill, who's tuning in.
Hi, Bill.
He's asking about an easy way to output the wireless Go 2s into something like a Tascam DR60DM Mark II or D Mark II. He's asking about splitting it to a pair of XLRs. Are you familiar with that device? And you're giving that a thumbs up, so it sounds like that's a yes. Maybe?
I'm very familiar with Tascam,
Okay.
and typically they are. You did mention XLR inputs, so I am actually very familiar with the XLR inputs on a Tascam.
Okay.
And it's very, very simple. One thing I didn't mention, just because I would have got into if I kept mentioning accessories, it would have got crazy. That SC11, very crucial there.
I'm pretty sure I have one of those.
That's gonna, yeah. There you go. Exactly. Yeah. So it's going to split that output. When we go stereo with the wireless Go 2, it's going to split 1 left, 1 right. And then the VXLR, Victor X-ray Luna Romeo.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to learn the alphabet.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. VXLR, Victor. That VXLR, and then you're going to notice a couple different ones. VXLR, VXLR Pro, VXLR Pro Plus. I'm sorry, I'm getting them mixed up with our microphones. VXLR, VXLR Plus, and then the VXLR Pro. The Pro is actually, it might as well be called a DI box, which is going to take an unbalanced signal. More on this in a little bit. I told you I get into the nerdy, but the VXLR is all you need for that because it's self-powered. The VXLR Plus will allow for phantom power to be converted, and then the Pro will take an unbalanced signal to a balanced signal. And that's like $40, $25, and like $10.
Okay.
Or $15. And I apologize for the cost there. But those 3 are your options. Don't get confused by them out there. With the wireless Go 2, into an SC11, into the VXLR times 2, good to go. Then channel 1 goes to input 1 on your Tascam. Channel 2 goes into your input 2 on your Tascam. Start recording.
All right. Okay. I just figured it made more sense to ask there, and then because it's not quite related to the mobile
Perfect.
stuff. So
Absolutely. No, it's great.
Okay.
That is great. That goes back to our, oh yeah, we were on wireless. So yep, absolutely. Perfect. So into the wireless, now I'm on my wireless again. Into the mobile, the idea here is that they can do stereo, but by default, if you plug in Lightning and so forth, they're pretty much, they have to be manufactured to be in stereo, but almost every single microphone that's out there is going to be more mono than it is for stereo. So again, the IXY is a great stereo option. Again, we worked with Apple to make that so. And then the rest of them are going to be the Video Micro, which is a standard video mic from us. And then the Video Mic Me C and the Video Mic Me L. You'll notice that the picture on the left and the picture on the right are very similar. And the big difference here is one's an Android, one is an iOS device, an Apple iPhone of some sort. So the middle one is the special one. And I actually do have this right here in front of me too. I chose the universal specifically because I wanted to have options. We will be talking about cables a little bit more in a bit, but it comes with a 4-pin. I'm not going to be able to get it in focus from that range, but we'll give or take. But the idea of a 4-pin is what smart devices are actually looking for. So you get that inside of the universal kit, but if you get the Rode SC2 or the adapter that goes 4-pin to 3-pin, the SC3, then you'll actually be able to just plug in as if you're a standard DSLR microphone. Because remember, you can buy the micro standalone. Inside of the Vlogger kits, you're going to get it for a smart device. And so it comes with the 4-pin for smart devices, but you can still buy the accessory to also be able to plug it into your DSLR camera tomorrow. So the Vlogger kits are very cool in the sense that it is a run and gun application. I was just showing you a very sturdy 2-position tripod stand, locking, a very powerful ball joint just for, your larger, bigger, heavier phones and so forth. And then if you're starting to pile a little more accessories up on top of the DCS, the dual cold shoe that I was showing you earlier up on top there, it's very sturdy. And then you just place your phone inside of it. Then you have a light that it actually comes with now. I think it's a five position light. Let's count it out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I got it right. I get to keep my job. 5-position LED light. And then again, depending on which one you choose, you'll either get the micro and the stereo bar, or you will not. And the microphones for the iOS and the Video Mic Me C version, the Android version, is going to be plug and play. That microphone actually straps around the phone and latches onto the back of the body, plugs right into your USB-C or your iOS input, and you're ready to start recording. One thing that I will actually add to this, and we'll talk, I don't think it's so much in this setup phase of this, but I like to close all apps and then plug in the microphone. And if you need to do a hard shutdown because nothing's been accepted, then I have done that before as well. I still got the light on. So you'll want to close all apps, plug in the microphone, and then turn on, say, your voice memo app or your video app or any third-party audio video app that you might be using on that. And it should accept it because the phone accepted it prior to. If you have a bunch of software open, it might kind of fritz the phone out. And if anybody's ever tried to connect devices to their phone, they probably experienced this before. It is just that phones don't have as much processing and various speed and different things like that. So it can just be a little fickle. So just remember that. And that is my technique for trying to overcome that. So if you're going to Facebook Live, disconnect everything, close it down, restart it if you want to be very secure about it. And then when it starts back up, first thing you do is plug your microphone in. Let the phone acknowledge that there's an external input, then open Facebook. And it should be your default. So mobile kits. After that, we're going to have our setup conversation. So this gets a little crazy. I'm going to try to not overwhelm too many people, but if we have questions, go ahead and interrupt me and we'll stop it. But we're going to start with setup for camera microphones. So these DSLRs, and we've already talked quite a bit about a lot of this stuff, but decision number one with cameras is going to be what's called a single system or a double system. Double system is, as the names would suggest, 2 people are kind of recording the thing. So if I'm behind the DSLR, kind of being director, then I have another person or another recorder doing audio as well. That's a double system. Now, of course, you can expand that to 3 systems, 4 systems, 5 systems. So if in that example of that wedding earlier, I put that recorder over by the stage and then try to get a line of sight thing and record it with a Tascam like that gentleman was doing, then that is a double system. I'll still have a camera out front. And another, it's not really a rule, but why not? I follow this rule. Turn every microphone on. Some audio is always better than no audio. So if I have a DSLR camera out front and then I have a recorder over on the stage and that's my professional setup, I'm still going to turn on that camera microphone and accept the best audio I possibly can. I'm going to set it up for good levels and all those things. If I can then expand my setup into something more powerful, like getting a stereo video mic X on top of that out in the room, then my second setup is the main setup. It's microphone number 1, maybe some wireless microphones, and then I blend that into the stereo microphone so that I can understand the dialogue but still hear the room and the ambience and the B-roll, as we were saying. That's why stereo is for B-roll as well, because it's going to pull some of that in. If you turn a microphone off, just expect that to be the audio that you probably had. Murphy is always going to get you. So just redundancy and so forth. If you are a single system setup, then it's more about checking and checking and rechecking and checking. So you're just making sure that you didn't lose anything, that you captured that take. It does take more time, but it can be done. You also have to note that you're typically the sole person making sure everything's good. So you're checking lighting, you're checking the levels, you're checking the talent, you're making sure somebody's acting correctly, whatever it might be. So you got to keep that in mind, that a single system does not give you as much options. That's why a double system is strong. So with a double system or a single system, the recorder is typically your camera in one case. A double system might be an external recorder like a sound devices piece, Zoom Tascam, or your phone, right? I've actually put phones in pockets with lavalier microphones to capture dialogue and synced it up to a shotgun microphone on my camera in post. Again, an ambient versus localized close miking technique. And then I can also have redundancy if something goes wrong. So a double system is very powerful, but it's not limited to just your camera. Most people also forget that if you have 2 cameras running, 2 DSLR systems, camera 1 and camera 2, that's still a double system. So you have one microphone over there. What confuses a lot of people is I'll actually do a technique with audio where camera 2 tends to be closer, right? So camera 1 might be that zoomed out look of the bride and groom and a little bit of the crowd, just a really wide angle. Camera 2 might be a side angle that's zoomed up on the bride or groom. It's usually the bride. That's the smart way to do it. And that close-up might put the camera closer. Well, guess which one gets the microphone? The professional microphone, the closer one. So camera 2 actually becomes my audio 1 and camera 1 becomes my audio 2. Little tip for increasing the quality of your wireless microphones and or shotgun microphones if you're in a setup with 2 cameras like that. So going back to the setup, once you have your recorders decided, you have to get the levels controlled. So this is inside of a Canon 5D, I believe. And the first thing with just a DSLR is take it off of auto. You don't want anything doing automatic. That's the same thing as taking a still photography shot, still photo, and letting it just do auto, right? You might have terrible exposure. You might have all kinds of problems. It might be an okay photo, but if you do manual, then you get to absolutely tell it what to do. You have to. So in the case of setting levels, really short conversation on that is that we're aiming for a percentage. And I always teach it in percentage because it doesn't really matter what the level is on the device. 100% scale, and I'm aiming for about 70 to 80%. Okay, so my audio is going to be doing this, and I'm aiming for 80%, because if I hit the top of most digital items, or if I do hit the top of a digital item, then I'm going to distort, I'm going to clip. You probably heard those terms before. It sounds really bad, plain and simple. So if I aim for 70%, I have 30% of give before I actually hit distortion. The other thing too is the opposite way, which is I don't want it to be too quiet. So I don't want to do 40 or 30, because then later I'm going to have to turn it up anyway. So it's very much, and this is another artistic and skilled part of audio, is making sure that you have those averages correct and noticing when somebody gets a little too loud. So test the audio prior, make sure that they're testing the way they're going to perform it. And then if there's multiple parts that are either loud or quiet, then you might have to record it a couple different times at a couple different levels. There are also a couple of our microphones that have what's called the safety track, the video mic NTGB in one of them. And it's a setup that actually has it looks like two towers on it. And remember, these microphones can go to two places on your DSLR, a left and a right. So what we did was make the left side full volume and the right side turned down by 10 dB, so that when I record that in left and right, one channel is full volume and the other channel is turned down by 10 dB. So now in post, I have the ability to, if somebody gets louder, as long as they didn't increase by way more than that, I can grab that 10 dB down and replace the bad audio. So somebody laughs, somebody screams, somebody hits something, you can go grab that for that moment in time and replace it. So safety channel is what it's called on the Rode microphones, or you could do it manually by actually turning down the input on a second microphone. It's a technique that we used to do before technology caught up to it, was just two microphones into two recording channels. So it gets really fancy, but you got to make sure this is correct. Once you set this up, then you can actually start worrying a little bit more about the words that are being said or the way they're being said and the acting and or the interview, the content that is going on. If you just forget about this, you're going to have problems in, again, it either being too quiet or being too loud. So this is very important on any device, whether it's an external recorder, phone, DSLR, computer, etc. So any questions on that real fast, Kate? It's a lot.
That was a lot, but we didn't get any questions. So not going to lie, you lost me for a minute there, but I'm trying to learn during these sessions. I mean, I use the mobile setup a lot. As a matter of fact, all of those adapters you have, I have, because I'm using my smart lav with my mirrorless cameras for videos too, as well as using my phone. So I have the wireless go. So I need all the adapters just to make, never knowing how I'm going to hook up my audio. So I just have this whole bag of cables at this point. Just finding
That's my Murphy's Law bag.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
That's my Murphy's Law bag. I absolutely have a hard, it's literally a fishing tackle box that just has adapters.
Well, I don't only have this much audio
Murphy's
gear.
box.
I only have the Go and the lavalier, the Smart Lav.
Yeah.
Yes. I think actually it's the original Smart Lav. It's the very first one you guys made.
Awesome.
Because maybe, not the only, like the very, very first one, but
Yeah,
I have
probably
to use,
the very first one.
I have to use the lightning adapter and then the other anyhow, it's crazy. So
Yeah, gets crazy.
But it still works.
It does get crazy.
It still works.
Yep.
So that's what really matters, is this stuff lasts a long time too. Okay.
That's the other goal.
Yeah, we have about 8 minutes left. I
just saw
time flies when you're talking about audio.
Yep.
So just that quick reminder, if you have any other questions, we have about 7 minutes left now as I keep talking. Get those posted in the chat. What else you got for us, Ryan?
I am going to go over that cable stuff real fast because I'm just driving it home. We do have the TRS into TRRS for smart devices. TRRS, smart devices. What that is a bidirectional cable. So mic out, so a microphone going over to the phone and then headphones coming back. It's the same reason we have earbuds that actually have that microphone on there. You have headphones in your ears and then a microphone on your chest, and that's bidirectional information for smartphones. Other than that, these cables haven't changed for a long time, but check out the SC cables from Rode, and we have just about every adapter, as you were saying, Kate, ready to go. The other thing too is balance versus unbalanced. This is professional versus consumer level. So one signal is professional, the XLR balanced is going to actually cancel noise, and you can run it a lot farther. Unbalanced, you're going to be limited to about 30 feet max, and you might turn it into an antenna because it doesn't cancel new noise. So it's just very crucial to make sure that you have the right connections with the right adapters. Otherwise, you're going to lose audio. So if anybody has problems with that, my email is going to be at the end of this. You can always reach out and I'll walk you through it because it's about 80% of my tech support calls too. So another thing, windjammers block the wind. If you're outside, get a windjammer. Boom poles. Get it closer to your talent. That's the whole purpose of a boom pole. And then cables, in this sense, is making sure you have those adapters like we were talking about. If you one day switch your video micro over to your phone, you need to have that adapter ready to go so you have that option in your setup. And then choosing the right recorders, whether they be DSLR or an external device, and then the adapters that go along with those in your tackle box ready to go is very crucial to what you're doing. And it's going to save you so much time and so much effort. So I do have what I like to call the application of knowledge real fast. We have already gone through so many of these, so this is kind of the fun part. But when you're doing this, what we're looking at is how does the room sound? Who's going to get mic'd? Are we going to mic everybody? With the new Wireless Go 2, you actually now have the ability to mic a bride and a groom. The mics are right there. They're very small. Tuck it into the pocket of the groom. And then, yes, I have had people now, we actually make the Wireless Go in white, actually get a small lavalier to clip onto a white dress. Now the bride actually gets mic'd too. And then I've hidden shotgun microphones. Just remember our main rules, getting rid of bad and putting that microphone as close as humanly possible so that things like room reverb or people clapping or coughing, and then keeping it discreet to where the person you want to record is getting recorded. The car scenario is that same idea that I was talking about with tucking a microphone up out of the screen. So in the case of John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd there, that microphone is either going to be right above them on the visor or right below them under the dash. But again, like because of camera angles and things like that the directors are going to choose actively, they can place those professional microphones very, very close, even inside of that. And then Hollywood actually does a technique called ADR, automatic dialogue replacement, automated dialogue replacement, any one of those. And they'll actually go back into a studio and replace those actors' voices in post and make it sync up with their movement of their lips. And our brains are not very fast in capturing that. So you got to make sure that it's not picking up weird sounds coming in from the environment, like other cars passing by or horns or so forth, but placing it closer so that it can also minimize those things, or you have to replace them in post. So the final one was that same conversation of interviews at a concert. This time around, we did talk about that if I am capturing the environment, I need a stereo microphone, the Stereo Video Mic X, Stereo Video Mic Pro IXY, and then maybe something like a stick mic or an interview mic, a Wireless Go to quickly tack onto somebody. Now, most times it's going to be super loud. So you either wait for the dialogue parts to be on a break before. So you're actually designing the shot specifically because it's going to be loud. One thing I didn't mention earlier, because it was going to be fun for this part, was professionally speaking, I will grab a recording off of the board of the sound engineer. So if you want to get professional sound from the band themselves, take the time to get a multi-channel audio interface or recorder that can take at least the stereo bounce off of the live sound engineer's mixer. Most of them will be very happy to do it, but give them plenty of time to set up and be out of the way, right? You don't want to get in their way of this show because they're about to go live and you're just trying to record a post-production set. So they get priority, but if they're willing and able and have the time to do that right for you, they'll give you the microphones that are up on stage. They'll give you a whole feed of the entire event. And that's one other way to really improve your sound at a concert by going and taking that extra effort. So after that, Kate, we got questions. Here is my email. And anybody can feel free to reach out. As the U.S. product specialist, it is my goal to make sure that all questions are answered. If I'm not the person with that answer, or if I need to go look it up, I will be that person that actually does that legwork for you. Other than that, Kate, that is all I got.
Okay, and I'm just going to, it's ryan.white@rode.com. Some of the text on your slides looked a little hard to read.
Yeah.
So
I did also shrink that up, and I was like, it's probably going to be small. I'm
sorry. We were trying to, because some of the slides we were wondering, because I think it's just being processed so many times, so it kind of like gets smaller, gets smaller. Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, everybody.
That's okay. That's okay. You can also reach out to the Glazer staff if you're in the Seattle area and want to talk to someone in person. We have video audio experts in store, so we are here for you as well.
That is exactly where I will send you.
Yeah. Yes. He's not gonna help you. He's gonna be like, oh yeah, call those guys at Glazer.
Call them back up.
Yeah, call them back up.
I will answer a question and then I will send you to Glazer.
All right. Well, we actually didn't have any other questions come in.
Worked out.
So it totally worked out. Thank you for those of you who did share some questions. It's always great to hear from people who are tuning in on these events. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Ryan, thank you so much for your time and information. Before you all head out, just super quick, I want to share that we have another event with Ryan in sorry, I was looking for my notes. It looks like I lost my notes. In October, it'll be October 22nd, and that's on our website already. You can go to glazerscamera.com and go to the events page, and you will see all of the other upcoming events. But that one's going to be a little bit different. It's called an Ask Me Anything session. Ryan, do you want to take a quick moment to talk about how that's going to play out, and then we'll wrap this up?
I put myself out there for every single one of you that want to ask this question, ask that specific question that they haven't had a chance to ask the road guy. If you've had an email out there or anything where you're curious about a specific question, the Ask Me Anything is I will not bring a presentation. I might screen share if it's a little more prudent to answer a question with a visual, but you get to ask me whatever you'd like about road, myself, anything you can think of, I'm here for you.
All right. So registration is open. It will be like this forum. It will be live on YouTube and Facebook. But those registrations get your reminders about the event happening, especially since that one is actually 3 months out. But we wanted to take this opportunity to let folks know we were doing that. All right, folks. Ryan, thank you again. Thanks to everybody from Road to helping make this happen. Shout out to Devin, who's helping me on behind the scenes. He's running the board, fixing all the things. We had a little hiccup this morning and we were like, oh, we got this. We're going to do this to fix it. You know, these things happen. That's the joy of working with technology, right? Things break, and that's why we want to have those backups and all that bag of cables or tackle box, depending on how you roll. All right, everybody, we are going to wish you a happy Thursday afternoon. It's almost the weekend. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Kate.